All right, Steeler fans, it is time to go behind enemy lines. Week 10, Washington Commanders. They don't even have a stadium in Maryland, so don't say it's Maryland. It's actually Virginia. But nonetheless, I'm bringing in a Commander affiliate here, Will Kramer, who I know from college back in the day, Shepherd University. What's up, Will? How's it going?
Oh man, Jeff, great to connect back with you. Great to talk about this big game. I kind of circled it
Yeah,
at the beginning of the season, and oh shoot, it's already November. Like it's
it's
already here.
crazy. It's crazy. And I got to be honest, I'm not the only Steeler fan, Steelers media source out there that when the schedule was released, you're looking at, okay, Jaden Daniels, rookie quarterback, Commanders, new head coach, and Dan Quinn, W. Like that's what people thought. And now here we are, fast forward to week 10, and it's anything but. This team is 7-2. The Commanders have the look, they have the feel of a team that is definitely trending in the right direction, but not so much like this is a future play, more so to the point that they're players right now. And so I got to be honest, like this has been the surprise of the year for me, the Washington Commanders' success so quickly with Jaden Daniels. What has been the biggest surprise for you with this new regime from ownership on down to the players and this rookie quarterback?
I mean, the easy answer is the quick turnaround.
Yeah.
You know, we really felt like with the hiring of Adam Peters as general manager, he would put together a good squad. With hiring Dan Quinn, you're like, this guy has been successful in Atlanta. He's been very successful as a defensive coordinator. So you really thought he would give him time. He would figure out what needs to be figured out. But to have the instant success offensively too, to have that and be 7-2. I mean, we're all living on a high right now with how
Right.
well they're playing. And I certainly, we heard enough from reporters that Jaden Daniels looked really good. And I mean, they said at minicamp he was the best quarterback on the field. So you knew in April and May that he was going to be pretty good, and then you heard it in training camp. But I think it's the maturity and poise that you see from him, that he's just calm out there, and so it's a lot of fun to watch him play.
Yeah. Nothing seems I've watched a good bit of him because obviously the Steelers are going to play them. So I watched a lot of the Giants game last week. There's nothing frantic about his style. Like you watch other rookie quarterbacks, whether it's Caleb Williams, Drake May, you could go down the list. And there's always those moments, and Steeler fans saw this with Kenny Pickett when he was a rookie in 2022, and even in his second year in 2023, where it almost is like there's a panic button and it gets pressed all the time. I haven't seen that, but maybe you have. Have you seen anything happen to Jaden Daniels during your time watching him this season that you're like, oh, he doesn't handle that well? Is there anything like that you've seen?
Yeah, the moments when he has to slide. If
Oh,
he
he can't
he he
slide.
he really still is so competitive. He wants to get that first down, and he's
Yeah.
getting better. But from a pocket presence, no, that's exactly what has been so impressive is, okay, so he's a dual threat quarterback. They're going to have a little bit of instant success in the league because they can rely on their legs. And he did that in week 1. He bailed out of the pocket a lot. But then the very next week, he really had worked on it, and he continues to progress, and he's still throwing it a decent amount. But he knows when he can run it, and he can figure out, like, I can outrun that linebacker. And there are times when they run that option play, it's cheat mode.
Yeah.
If it's 3rd and 2, and he can put it inside to his running back and then pull it, it's unfair for the defense to stop him for 2 yards. It's because what they have to focus on with the running back when Brian Robinson's healthy versus exposing the outside, it's almost near impossible to stop.
Yeah. Now, I will say this. If there's a team, a defense that is familiar with this style of attack, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers. The fact that they play Lamar Jackson and the Ravens twice
Yes.
every single year. And I will tell you what the plan is going to be on Sunday when the Steelers go to Washington. And that is if they're going to run the read option, they're going to hit Jaden Daniels every single time, no matter what. That's what they do with Lamar Jackson. If he hands it off, so in the past it was to J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, now it's Derrick Henry, it doesn't matter. They're going to hit the quarterback every time to the point where the quarterback's like, look, we got to stop running this play. They are teeing off on me every time. And so that's the Steelers' approach. It always has been. It always will be. I expect the same plan. I'll be curious to see if there's anything the Steelers can do that can kind of not get in the head of a very poised quarterback like Jaden Daniels, but really just kind of get him out of his realm, get him out of his comfort zone. He has not turned the ball over a lot. I think they only have 3 turnovers the entire season, which is incredible. I think he's only thrown 1 interception. If there's a weakness on this offense, though, before we go to the defense, because we're going to talk about them too, what would be the weakness of this Commanders offense, in your opinion?
Wide receiver, sort of. Like, there's nobody on paper that you're really scared of. Terry is a great player.
He's phenomenal. I love Terry McLaurin.
And he's finally getting a chance for people to see how good is it we've known. But after that, you're not scared of a Noah Brown. You're not scared of a Zach Ertz. But what's interesting to say, like on paper, their receivers are not very impressive. They spread the ball around. So kind of hearing when you talk about the Steelers are going to try and take away those option plays, they get the ball out so quickly. And one of the advantages of not having a legit number 2, fans, it was the trade deadline today. Fans were wanting to say we need an upgrade at wide receiver. Is you don't know where the ball's going right now, because besides Terry, you can double him up and then he can decide to hit, Zacchaeus or De'Ami Brown, or he can hit the rookie tight end Sinet who's coming on. It's like there's so many of these additional weapons, along with Austin Eckler has been quite the surprise. Yeah. And so, by all means, I would say our receiving core is not that impressive, but the way the offense is designed is right now they're not going to feature anyone, so you just don't know where the ball's going to go.
And the thing is, I think a lot of Steeler fans might hear that and say, that doesn't sound like a prolific offense. Folks, it has been a large enough sample size that this is a very prolific offense. They are putting up a lot of points. They are moving the ball at a ridiculous clip right now. This is not a flash in the pan. So I know that this is going to be a really tough test. I might even go as far as saying it's the toughest test the Steelers defense has had so far this season. And they've played, the Steelers offense has gone against some stout defenses, but not necessarily the defense going against stout offenses. This will be a good test for the Steelers, especially coming off a bye where they're supposed to get some players back. But let's go to the defense. The Washington defense was, I think early on, I live in Maryland. I hear a lot of Commanders talk. Everyone was saying the defense is going to be the Achilles heel of this team. They're too old. Bobby Wagner, like, what are we doing? What are we trying to do here? This is not the Legion of Boom. But they've slowly put together a very respectable season. What's your takeaway on the defense at this stage of the season?
The dam is about to break, Jeff. That's what's happening with the defense. And, you talk about, by all means, I'm a little bit concerned about the offensive line and the Steelers' pass rush ability with TJ Watt, but it's more with your resurgence the last couple of weeks with Russ. I'm like, how are we going to stop your passing attack? How are we going to cover Pickens? How are we going to cover the new receiver that you guys have just acquired?
Mike Williams, yeah.
And so, because our corners are a major, major problem. To your point of saying, the defense has been a lot better than we expected. That has turned around a lot faster. I think Dan Quinn brought in 2 guys that he knew along the defensive line who have made an instant impact, and that's Dante Fowler Jr. and Dorrance Armstrong. They came from Dallas. The defensive coordinator was with him in Dallas as the secondary coach, and so they brought in some familiarity. And then Wagner, he doesn't look like he's lost a step, and he's the what we're seeing between Wagner and Jeremy Chin is the communication with the defense is very, very tight, and they're able to know what people are doing. But the way to attack us is through your wideouts, because we don't have good corners. And so just go after them, because they're so scared about getting beat deep, they'll give everything up underneath.
Yeah. Who are your top 2 corners right now?
Marshawn Lattimore.
Oh, that's right. Because that's right. You guys are traded for Marshawn Lattimore. Right?
So he would be our best if
he's deemed healthy. I know he's got a hamstring, but I don't know if he's deemed
hamstring.
That's a Devontae Adams hamstring.
Right. That could be. But yeah, so you've got Benjamin St. Juice is probably the best of their outside corners. He's a big body corner. He's tall. He's got lengthy arms, but he's grabby as all get out. He will get so many DPIs called on him, especially if you run a double move on him. That's what he does. They've been playing Mike Sanderson, a rookie out of Michigan, and he's done a really good job on the outside, but he was drafted to be what they call the star, which kind of bothers me coming from Dallas, that your nickel type player is going to be called the star. But he has made a really good transition to the outside, but he's small. He's 5'8". He's about 180, 190. So when he has to go up against a bigger physical receiver, as I mentioned, like how are we going to stop George Pickens? He can't do that. But he is a very smart player. So that certainly helped him out.
Who's the corner you all drafted in the first round a couple years ago that I heard you all were shopping? What, he weighs like 140 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes.
There it is.
Yeah, yeah. Now, I mean, you feel bad for the kid because he was misdrafted. Hello, It's Washington. That's what they do.
Not his fault. It's not his fault. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you put a guy who needs to be a zone corner in a man scheme last year, who cannot physically hold up against a guy like AJ Brown and CeeDee Lamb, and he gets torched. And then, this year they run a pretty aggressive scheme, and he hasn't gotten on the field much. He does have an interception, but that's because a guy, Deontay Johnson, ran the wrong route. So Andy Dalton threw it to the corner because the receiver's supposed to be there.
Shocked face.
Right, exactly. So people were kind of like, oh, that's what he needed. But yeah, he doesn't weigh a lot. He's tall. He's got long arms, but he probably weighs 170 pounds. He's got the biggest, the twigs for legs, so he can just get shoved around. And yeah, that was it. It's not working out for year number 2.
It's funny because when he was being talked about, the Steelers needed a cornerback in that draft class as well. They got Joey Porter Jr. Yes. But I remember when Emmanuel Forbes was being touted as like a number 1 draft pick, and I said, this guy is tiny. Could you imagine? I said this on multiple podcasts. Could you imagine Najee Harris, who is a beast of a man, one-on-one with him by the boundary? Like that's not a good situation for the corner, and here we might see it on Sunday. You never know.
Right. So. Right. Well, and his problem is he can't get on the field because he doesn't play special teams. So he dresses and just sits there the whole time. And yeah, I mean, the videos from that draft, Ron Rivera is driving in the morning of the draft saying, if our guy's there, we're going after him. And they have pretty much determined it was Lucas Van Ness, who went earlier to the Packers, and it was Forbes as the 2 players they really liked. And so they passed on Christian Gonzalez, Deonte Banks, Joey Porter Jr., and fans right now are like, what are you doing?
All right, fair enough. So you guys have to be extremely excited. 7-2 is probably way above the watermark that you had in your head for this point in the season. I don't know if you're familiar with the line, but the line is gradually moved in the Commanders' favor. The opening line was about the Commanders giving 1.5, and then it eked its way to 2.5. Now I've seen books is up to 3. That's your standard home team 3-point spread. From a Steelers perspective, like, man, why is this line moving in this direction? I don't think this is as lopsided as people may think. What's your take on how this game could play out?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great test. The offensive line has pleasantly surprised people, being way more solid than they thought on paper. But your defense, your pass rush is going to be quite the challenge for them. And so I was really surprised to see that too, that they had Washington up 3. Plus, let's talk about the elephant in the room. It's not far from Pittsburgh. There's a lot of transplants. We've seen when it was FedEx Field, how it got taken over. I went to one of those games sometime in the 2010s and said, I'll never go again to a Steelers Washington game at the time. So there's going to be that factor where the opposing team is going to have a presence. So how Vegas is thinking that Washington, has that type of lead, I'm not quite buying that.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what the injury reports does in terms of, you talk about Lattimore and players like that, but they're trying to move money one way or the other. That's what Vegas does with these lines. And so they're clearly trying to get some even money with this situation, but it's going to be really interesting. I want to give you an opportunity though, because I do value your time and I appreciate you taking the time to do the show. Go ahead and plug whatever you're doing, whether it's social media handles, podcasts, all that good stuff.
Yeah. So I'm part of the Let's Talk Football community. Easy, quick search on Facebook, you'll see us. It's a friend of mine from high school, and he basically knew that everyone loves talking football, and we want to bring people in from all over. And he spread it out to NFL, to college. He's branched out, and it's been a lot of fun to be a part of it. We do a podcast every Wednesday, Washington Football Weekly. And it gets a chance. We're critical of the team, and that's what we like. We like people who are willing to. We don't just want fans. We want people who can be realistic and say, here's some opportunities and for the team and what we're seeing. And it's been a really fun community to be a part of. You got fans from all over sharing who they like, and it's been a lot of fun the last couple of years.
Well, man, it's been good catching up. Back in our lacrosse days back at Shepherd, we're teammates for a year, and it was a lot of fun back then. And that's been a long time ago. I don't know if you realize it's coming up on like 20 years. That's ridiculous. Like there's no way that
doesn't feel like that. It really doesn't. But I was on campus last year. I had a chance to look around. A lot of it is still the same. But I did see that they finally tore down Turner Hall. It's like, it's about time.
Did they really?
They did, yes.
Wow. I never stayed on the east side. I was always on the west side. You
got the air conditioned dorms. That's how dated we are by sharing that. But yeah, no, it's amazing to see how much is the same and what has changed. And when my wife, who came from the University of Wisconsin, saw it and went, that's it? That's campus?
Hey, well, you were the same year as me. You came in at Shepherd College and graduated with Shepherd University, so that we saw that transition. But Will, thank you very much for your time, man. Enjoy the game this weekend. We'll be in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you. This was fun.